where dreams collide. Sarah's voice, a gentle guide through the realms of time and space. She takes us to a sacred place.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. And I am so excited because today I have Dr. Allison. I met Dr. Allison when I did Maria Menounos's Heal Retreat by accident because my mom signed me up and I had no idea what I was walking into. But it actually was so amazing. I shouldn't say actually, it was so amazing, and I learned so much. And I just felt like a different person after it, and especially because I got to learn so much from you, Dr. Allison. So I'm so excited that you agreed to come on here and share with my followers a little bit about what you were teaching us. But before we get into that, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into this?
Sure. Yeah, no, so nice to see you, Sarah. I love our story of meeting and I also love that you shared with the group how random that was that your mom planned it and you had no idea really what you were getting into, which was so lovely. Um and I am thankful that we found each other sort of in that random way. And, the interesting part of my journey is that I always wanted to be a doctor, but in my growing up, I only really knew conventional medicine. My mom actually was an office manager at a primary care, and I always sort of had the idea that I could be a primary care and do house visits. And I just didn't have a true sense of, I guess, the reality of medicine, what I thought I could do once I actually got to college and did my pre med. And I was like well into that. One day in my junior year, somebody I was in class with like said to me, "You do realize that's not how medicine works?" Like it like kind of really punched me in the face of the like, "Oh, I thought I was going to teach people how to be healthy and, work with nutrition." And again, at the time I didn't know much, but I thought I could make it happen. Now, I was fortunate. I sort of took a little different route that I chose to go to a naturopathic medical school instead of just a conventional medical school. Of course, I sort of thought that was also the way, and always felt that that was a great alternative for me that would give me the opportunity to work more around lifestyle and not really the pharma model. And of course, then I, plugged into that and felt some confidence around that choice. And it was, sort of around 5, 6 years into practice that I started realizing that like it wasn't all about diet, it wasn't all about exercise, that sometimes that didn't really move the needle for health for people. And, that was a really strong moment around 2013 that I kind of had to go back and teach myself some things, asking questions of like, what am I missing here? What is not taught in medical school that I sort of started thinking, is this how doctors really practice back in the day, where you would learn from your patients and you'd pay attention and you'd keep your eyes open and ask better questions and you would come to the answers. And that's kind of how it happened for me. I started really looking and I at the time like went to a few like you have to do continuing education. So I would try to do things that maybe were outside of my normal, just looking. I was like, there's got to be some answers here. And unfortunately, there kind of weren't, like everywhere I looked, like kind of got the same solution. It's just more diet and exercise and supplements. And, if you throw enough at that person, like that can repair them. And man, it really became the model. And now it's sort of under that functional medicine umbrella. But the coolest part of the story, I still remember it. They would have these libraries that you at these big conferences, and they'd have these like libraries that you could go and buy books, like all the best new books that were available at the time. So I would go and I'd snap pictures of everything and I would then buy them online so that they would get shipped to my house. And I thought, oh, someday like I'll read these have to be, my answer has to be here. So then I honestly, I had gone to a conference. It was 2013. I bought a bunch of books and I had a week off in the winter, and I had this one really really challenging case that just didn't add up to me, and I was so passionate about trying to help this person. He was on disability, and like nothing made sense, and to me I was like, this is something about his story really motivated me to understand more. And one of the books I bought was a book by Dr. Jack Cruz. It was his book called Epipaleo RX. And even though I thought it was kind of a diet book, as I read it, I read through the lines. I'm like, wait a second, this is not about diet. This is about timing and things that I really, in my brain tied back to physics, which I had always loved when I was younger, but sort of abandoned it because when you do medicine, you get taught biochemistry and biology and that kind of stuff. So then it really invigorated me. I read so much during that week, and yeah, I found physics again. And then that's really where it all kind of landed for me, is that I retaught myself physics and biophysics and optical physics. And really, it took some time because I was practicing full time and didn't really have a lot of extra time. But then I learned enough to start applying it, and I started applying it with patients who were open. I know we're going to talk about this, but like sometimes when I would say things to patients, they would just think, you're crazy. Like, I have no idea how this could be the answer. And thankfully, though, I had patients with enough trust in me. Some of these patients had been with me since 2007. So we had really, created a really trusting relationship. And sometimes they realize, like, wait, all the things that you are telling me to do, it isn't totally moving the needle. Maybe there is something more. And I kind of wasn't sure myself, like at the beginning of applying all this, I was not 100% confident, but I knew I was on the right track, and I knew that it was directionally accurate because it was sort of nature's rules. When you look at physics, you're like, wait a second, this is how nature works. So unless Einstein's wrong, like this has to work. So I went with that, and man, then I really had such amazing, like, true healing transitions where I could finally say, wow, these patients actually don't need me anymore. Like, I have given them the ability to run their own health with enough knowledge that they're not now customers for life. Like, they're able to run their own health, and they know I'm here for them if they have something that comes up, or they need to sort of rent my brain to help them reconcile it. But it was just a huge change for me. Now, unfortunately, time rolled along, and it kind of really, ripped the ground from under me because I had built a pretty big, kind of functional medicine practice. I had doctors working for me. Everyone was sort of working under that functional medicine model. And then the pandemic happened. I had built a lot of stuff. I had built a practice at one point, three doctors. I started a CrossFit gym locally in 2017. There we had like 205 members. I launched an online brand for teaching called Field Lab, and then the pandemic happened, and that was the month before the pandemic that I launched that. We had the 205 members. Like, there was so much going on, and then, man, like, time stopped. And everything in my life has changed since then. I sold my partnership in the gym. I had to sort of table Field Lab and just relaunched it. And then now I'm a solo doctor in my practice. After almost 20 years, I've decided that it's challenging to try to reteach doctors biophysics. So it's not my mission anymore. And my mission is more to share this knowledge with people who want to hear it, because I don't think medicine is going to be the solution. Health is the solution, and health is within you as the person. You don't need a doctor to give you health. You need to learn how to run your health. You might need a doctor like me to sift through symptoms to understand what you need to do, but ultimately, it's a powerful story. So, Maria and I had met several years ago, and she shared her story very vocally on her podcast, and she was quiet about working with me for a year. I had sort of said to her, I was like, do your journey and like really understand and learn, so that way then when you share it with the world, it's so much more authentic and so much more impactful for people. And then earlier this year, she had called me and kind of said, "Hey, I just talked to Canyon Ranch, and they really want me to do a retreat for them in August. Can you like we need to do this together? Like the real power of this healing retreat has to be sharing this message." So we kind of on the whim. I mean, it was like only a couple months before we had agreed to do it. Canyon Ranch was great and like pulled that together quickly and then like launched it. I think this is how, your mom was just randomly booking at the moment that we launched it because it sold out in 2 weeks. Like it was sold out. Like anyone who got into the retreat, I think there were 38 people. Anyone who signed up, like signed up in that first 2 weeks. And I love
Oh,
you and your mom were two of people that kind of were planning to go, or I think your mom was like, "Oh, we're planning to go then, so why not do this while we're there?" And that was,
yeah, that's
a
what
few
she
other
did.
people had the same experience. But then, that was sort of Maria and my opportunity to. It was, the first time we ever did anything like it, and it was sort of a test run, and the whole goal was to do retreat really different. I personally wouldn't pick the word retreat. I love the idea more of this is not about retreating from life, this is about learning life. So I'm more in the mindset of like field trips and adventure like that. But I love what happened there, that, the goal was to show people in a real experience how you run your day for health. And that was the goal of, Sunday to Wednesday. And we all journeyed together, with those days, really kind of just sharing in that experience. And I think that that's really what opened my eyes to kind of the next step, even for myself, where my day-to-day is still, a lot of one-on-ones with patients. But it motivated me to relaunch Field Lab and be able to create a very strategic community, like outside of social media, with people that are like-minded, because that was what happened at the retreat. I mean, the power of that group, it was, I don't know, there aren't words for it, right? Like there are no words for what happened in those days. It's so imprinting on me, and I think it's a moment I'll never forget because of how cool it was for everyone. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's a long answer, but I think it's important because most people, hearing, functional medicine doctors, it's kind of the same old, and I wish we could break free of that. I think it's starting to happen. I do believe that it's the alternative thinkers in medicine that this message will resonate with. It's just really hard to apply it in practice. I mean, I've dedicated hours and hours of my brain to reteach and relearn and unlearn and be open to it. It's really difficult for doctors to do that because you start questioning everything you've ever learned, and it's going to be interesting how it all pans out.
Your story is just incredible. And the way you tell it is just, it's mind-blowing. I mean, and it's just amazing that that you were able to break free, because a lot of people find themselves like in that prison, you know? I know because I went to school to be a psychologist, but I didn't continue after being in the field for a little while. But I have a question. Okay, so when you first figured out what moved the needle with your patients, what was it? Like, what did you start teaching them in the beginning that really made an impact that you were like, wow, these people don't need me anymore?
Right. Yeah. So, interestingly, I kind of use the word time, and that was, time is an interesting concept, right? That when you are in science and medicine and science, like everything about science, when you really step back, you realize, wait a second, like science has taken time out of a lot of the equations. Like when you throw time in there, it confuses all the mathematics sometimes. And that sounds like a really deep answer there, but this, I'm going somewhere with it. So I realized from reading that Epi Paleo RX book that I hadn't really thought about that. Like I wasn't really, weirdly, I look back and I think, did I not know that? Like how you start questioning what you know, and I realized that I never really thought about, in this case it was eating timing, that I wasn't really thinking about I always thought, oh, food really matters, and I food does matter, real food matters, but the timing of when that food information is going in you actually matters more. So I started, that was a comfortable place to start, but I started playing with that concept and then optimizing timing of everything in a lifestyle for a patient. And it was really delicate at the beginning because I, again, didn't, I don't know, I didn't really think it was as important as it is. And it was amazing though that shifting eating timing, exercise timing, timing of the day, like really helping people disconnect from being a night owl. Like I just became really obsessed with timing because I started to notice in my tough cases, they were all cases that were really timing shifted, that it was like their body no longer was connected to time. And then this became, where does time come from? Well, obviously time comes from the interaction of light photons with matter. And that then became a whole rabbit hole of then really understanding like circadian biology and what drives that. And it kept coming back to light photons, light physics, light as then the driver of biochemistry. And then it was just like I saw the light, like literally. And then when you see it through that lens, you realize, wait a second, like everything is light first. And then you go back into every culture in human existence and you realize, well, they knew it was light first. And I think I shared this with you at the retreat that, there was always a deep part of me weirdly connected to my past. And even though it's such a minimal part, growing up, there was always a strong message from my dad, my grandmother, whose side of her history is Native American. And there was always a strong message from her. She's like, you're going to be the first doctor in the family, and you're going to be the healer, and like you're going to be like the connection that our family has always had to that part of us. And it was always strong in there, and not to say that's part of everything, but I then, interestingly, in when I really just went all in and kind of was able to unleash from biochemistry and my old ways and being tethered to years of functional medicine thinking, was a patient who came in. He's passed now, but he was a Native American healer, and he came in. I didn't know this. He had made an appointment, and he came into his first visit, and I mean, I remember it so strongly. And he took off his glasses and he looked into my eyes and he goes, "I'm here because you're a healer." And it was weird. It was a weird moment. Like he said it, and it was almost like he was like speaking. I mean, I know you probably have had these moments. Like I know you shared with me your story, And it was deep. It was like he was speaking deeply into my brain. And I was kind of shocked because I was like, what? I didn't really know what he meant, because I was like, this, how could he know anything, right? So he shared with me his story of being a Native American healer, and that he unfortunately developed cancer and had years, I think it was 6 or 7 years, had been fighting cancer. And then he said to me, as a Native American healer, you have a choice. You can heal others and not yourself, or you can heal yourself and not others. And he said, I chose to heal others and not myself. I'm here because I need you. And then after the first visit, he said to me in honesty, he said, I'm too late. I'm probably 5 years too late. I know this now. I wish I had come before, but I'm going to keep coming because I know there's something you can do to help me. I just don't know what it is yet. So I shared with him, the story of light driving your health, and that was his second visit, and it was so remarkable because he's like, when you tell a Native American this story, it's so easy for it to resonate with them. And he said to me, he goes, I realize now I disconnected from nature. And not to say nature took him out, but nature will take you out. And he said, I realize this now. I believe it. He said, I believe it's too late. My cancer, he had multiple cancers at that point, but for an entire year, he reconnected with nature. He went for hikes. He started grounding. He um, ate seasonally. He reconnected with circadian function. And the coolest part of the story is that he had no hair because of his cancer treatments. But before he lost his hair was white. It regrew black, which is the story of melanin. It's the story of light. And he had this incredible healing moment where he realized he hadn't healed some old wounds from a first marriage and some issues that he had with his children who didn't understand his journey as a Native American healer. And he was able to have this super coherent, like, very strong energetic moment to write everything down, to like release this kind of like negative energy that he had held on to, that he wasn't really able to connect with. And he had come in, he said, I truly healed from that, and now I know I'm ready to go. And he died like 2 months later. And it was beautiful in the way that, it helped me to kind of realize, like, my role, like, and how powerful maybe the stuff that I knew is, and sharing that. But then to be able to have that confirmation, it was really strongly resonating. And he gave me a lot of messages. Like, he would come in and he's like, I'm here because I need to tell you, like, you need to share this. Like, you need to make sure that this information doesn't get lost, that it's more like people can remember. It was always there. We're just honestly, it's missing. It's missing for a lot of reasons, which is maybe by design, but that was kind of a major moment for me. And then I even honestly, like, so much happened that year that, like, I sold, my family, we sold our house to sort of just free up time and space and to kind of shift things. And we started traveling and trying to look for places to really connect to that could more share its message. And a lot changed after that for me.
Oh my God. Well, since you see so many patients and you started doing this, what was it that you feel would help people the most? Like, could you tell us basically what it was that was the most important thing that you feel?
Yes, yes. No, thank you for redirecting me. I realized I didn't quite answer your full question there. That, so then when I was really looking at time, I I realized that, how is time built in us? And that's the beauty of our circadian biology. So I really, like went to learn the ins and the outs so I could teach patients and people how to connect to that. Because once you can restore timing, you restore energy flow, you restore your thermodynamics. Living cells require flow energy, but that has to come from light being driven into the system, but also stored in the system in a quantum coherent way. So we become really cells filled with excess energy. So we can use that and pull that on demand. But that entire design is built by how the circadian biology is developed. And when I learned that it's like photo switches, like how does your brain know to go from on and off? How do your cells then get told by the brain clocks that they go on and off? And it took a little bit, because like the Nobel Prize was not given until 2017 for circadian biology. Like it's kind of still like the deeper workings of this are still new. So once that happened though, like more science emerged to help understand it. The problem is like the photonics, the optical physics behind it isn't always applied by the bigger, like the specialists. The specialists, like they see in their silo, it's the bigger thinkers that are able to sort of understand how everything works together. But then when I realized, wait a second, the it is as simple as the switch is on from sunrise, off from sunset, dark light and dark cycles. Like there's no central controller here. Even though, we're talking about light, it only works because there's a coupled cycle of darkness. And then when you realize how light turns on and darkness turns off, oh my gosh, you just see things so differently. So when I had really tough cases, when I convince them, and I say convincing because I know you mentioned like when your mom shared this with like the retreat with you, that I think that she said like we're getting up at sunrise, and like ever, you're like what? Yeah,
It's
so,
like, wait,
I
how are
know,
they?
right? So the interesting thing is that I started applying it, and every tough patient I had, they would listen to me because at that point, their perfect diet, their perfect movement, their perfect day that they were working so hard to commit to wasn't always working. And then I started simple. I said, you know what? You need to wake up every day at sunrise. You have to get outside. You cannot have a filter between you and the sunlight. No glasses on, no contacts. Definitely don't wear sunglasses. You cannot be behind a window. A glass window filters light. I don't care if it's cold. Put a coat on, like wear a parka. As long as your eyeballs get the light into them, there's a hole in your pupil for a reason. And that's so the light can track back to your retina. And there's a direct track from your retina to the clock in your brain. It's called the retinal hypothalamic tract. It's it's simple. The design is there. So I always would say like the form is there, so you need to use it. And it's at the beginning of this when I would tell patients like I had to really like understand the science to deliver it to them because people have to not just be told like, "Oh, you're go out at sunrise." And some people will believe you, but a lot of people are like, "Why?" So then, I would really build enough understanding so that it made them realize. And so when they would do that, then I'd say, I don't even really at first I'd be like, I don't really care what you do during the day. Just eat after that sunrise, do your day, take light breaks, but then when the sun sets, you need darkness. You cannot eat and you need to be aware of your light environment. If there's light pollution, if you're using artificial lights, like block them. And I started there very simply. And again, it was a lot of times in the beginning phase, just these difficult cases. And I- I'm going to tell you, like, I mean, I do a lot of like specific lab work because that's how I was trained. So I would do a lot of, labs, biochemistry, but when I started looking at that through the lens of physics, I realized, wait a second, your blood is telling you about this light story. It's telling you if you are getting morning light and running circadian function. It's telling you if you're not getting it. It's telling you if you're getting too much junk light. It's telling you if you're doing things at the wrong time. And it was absolutely the first moment in my career at that very beginning that I realized by adding in the light and dark cycles and the understanding of time, it moved people's lab results quicker than anything I had ever done before, quicker than any supplement regimen, quicker than any diet, quicker than any exercise. Like it blew my mind, and that was it. Then I couldn't unsee it, and I just started then really learning enough to be able to teach people so they would believe it, that they would be able to believe the light story. And I would kind of say, like, look, I'm just nature's translator. Like, I'm just here to deliver the message. I didn't make anything up. Like, nothing here is something I've come up with. I've just listened to the message and I'm translating it for you so you can understand the message and reconnect. And then I also realized, like, wait, as soon as everyone was getting that morning light, the unfiltered light, it was developing normalization of their dopamine levels, of how their brain could think. And then they would say to me, gosh, I can think better. So I can learn and I can actually do more in my life. And it was almost like weird. That's building back time in their life. And now it's something I, so willingly share. But I realize for true healing, it has to start with this. Like, you cannot heal if you do not understand time and how that's built by light and how that needs to interact with you so you can optimize like your true human potential, because that is how you interact with the deeper parts of you. And I think we shared that at the retreat of like talking about, DNA and junk DNA. And like, this is that story. It's like the light that's held in your water networks that surround your DNA and your mitochondrial DNA. It's memory from forever. And that is something that's lost when you have no light in your system. If the light is gone from you, the message is dormant in you. And this was actually some of the stuff, like my patient, the Native American healer, I sort of like threw some stuff at him at the end. I was like, I know this is not why you're here for your visit, but like, do you think, like, as he started thinking a little better and having some more melanin production in his brain, I said to, because he actually, I mean, he shared with me stories of his ability to shape shift
Mhm.
and amazing capabilities that he started to understand through the lens of like, he had this semi-conduction capacity that was more powerful than I can't shape shift. I wish I could. Like, there were moments where I said to him, I was like, do I have like the DNA to potentially do that? And interestingly, he kind of said to me, he's like, typically if you can harness some of this capability young enough. And so when he said that to me, I was like, oh, in my head, I thought, oh, you fully myelinate, like your nervous system is not fully formed typically in a female until around 26 years of age. As he said that to me, because he shared that he started learning how to do everything when he was a early teen. And I said to him, I was like, I think I'm too late. I'm like, now my nervous system's insulated. But then he actually in that moment said, that's so my daughter is homeschooled, and she at the time was doing a lot of like help in the office and the front desk. And he said to me in his visit, he goes, that's your daughter out there in your office, right? And I said, yes. He goes, I've downloaded her multiple messages. He said, if she's open to it, she has the ability. He said, I know it, I sense it. I hope I can connect you with people who can help her to harness that. And at the time, she was 7, she's 10 now. So it's interesting because I know this is kind of stuff that we shared briefly connected to, but it makes so much sense to me when you understand the biophysics that, it's a communication loss. It's a network failure. It's too much noise in the system that I think your work, oftentimes maybe, connects people to that where in their physical reality they're unable to do that in the day to day because they've lost the biophysics of them. My hope is always that I can reconnect them to that it may actually be something they can manifest in their reality. I see that as health. I see that as reconnecting with human potential that allows you to go back to normal state, that you can run back as a dissipative structure that can store energy massively to then connect with all that potential that you got from your parents, that you got from your mitochondria. I mean, the mitochondria DNA that comes from your mom. I mean, we know that memory goes as far back to your maternal line as the beginning, which is so cool to think, who knows where things are going to go in the future if we keep
I
learning this, right?
know.
So you got to load the light back in.
I really feel like you are just at the forefront and bringing through all this wisdom, this ancient teaching. I mean, because you're right in alignment with my clients that are under hypnosis that are bringing this information, but you speak so eloquently. But I mean, even yesterday in my session, she's never heard this before, but when she's looking into how she can heal her hormones, and I wanted to ask you about this, she said she needed to get into the rhythm of her circadian rhythm was out of balance, and she needed to get the sunlight, the morning sunlight in her eyes and watch the sun going down and really rebalance herself and get into the sun. And it and her higher self under hypnosis said that's one of the biggest reasons why women need hormones these days. And that was shocking to me because I have a lot of clients, and that's one of their biggest questions is how come we didn't need hormones before? Why do
Yes.
we need hormones now? What is going on with women?
Yeah, no, actually, it's such a great conversation because it is this story. Why are we with so many perimenopausal conversations,
Yeah.
menopause that's destroying these women and their lives? Like they
They're
just
devastated.
that, yeah, like trust me, it's something I see a lot of because it just wrecks how you can function in your day. And it is rooted in this story. And that's because what should be happening in the normal state of the human cell, there should be this net negative electron capacity, and electrons are where photonic energy is stored. You should have so much net negative stored light energy at every part of the cell to run normal, to buffer any stressor the body encumbers, especially when we're talking about hormone changes that in years past, and we're kind of talking like 2 decades ago, the general population, when they were going through perimenopause and menopause, their cells were with a strong charge. It's called your redox potential. And he still is researching. His name is Dr. Douglas Wallace. He's a pediatrician who discovered that, mitochondria in the DNA came from maternal lines. He was studying pediatric patients who had cancer, trying to understand. The question for him as a pediatrician is, why are kids with cancer now? Sort of like the same conversation. Why are women with perimenopause now? And once he realized through testing that the mitochondria of those kids were aged, it's called heteroplasmy. So, what happened across the board was all of these kids with childhood diseases, they looked like they were kids, but their mitochondria were 60, 70 years old. So now there was a mismatch. When you think about, what is your mitochondria doing? It's running the thermodynamics of your body, but they also can be perceived as time machines. They're allowing your body to understand if it's sensing timing correctly based on the environment that you live in. They're like your sixth sense. And when that goes, oh my gosh, it invites disease because that is where the heart of the redox potential is. So if you no longer have the capacity to store energy and instead you're using that energy to deal with stressful environments to your cells, the hope is you have enough stored energy to buffer the stress. So now, if we zoom ahead into the current time, any woman who is dealing with perimenopausal stress, with menopausal stress, that's a signature of a poor redox potential. You've lost that energy buffer. So now your body is constantly just with only the energy that you're getting in from the day. So, unfortunately, if you've got no stored energy and you need to get energy to run your day, you're left with where does that energy come from? All energy comes from the sun. So if you are an outdoor human and you're outside all day and you happen to connect with that, which your physical structure does have the capacity to do human photosynthesis. We know this. It's quite proven, but most people are not getting that loading of energy. Thermodynamically, that's about 2/3 of the energy that we require in the day. So all that's left is food, which is 1/3 of our energy input. If you're eating perfectly, and I say perfectly, like the food information you're eating needs to be from your location, like latitude specific food that's real food. You can load 1/3 of energy and you might be able to get by. But honestly, when you're going through this degree of stress, it's not enough. So then you can have perimenopause for 15 years and then you go through menopause and it wrecks you. And it was not there before. Now, there was a recent study on a I think I think it's the tribe that's in Arizona, that they still do, have some land, and it's oh my God, I'm blanking, even though I went to medical school out there. There's a tribe there and they were doing studies on menopausal women, and it was a clear response of women in those tribes go through menopause and it's normal. It's like it was years ago, and this is in current time, but when you look at their lifestyle, they are connected completely to the light and dark cycles. They're connected completely to food from their environment, and they are able to, even in current times, go through menopause and be okay. Now, when I learned this, I started looking for especially the confirmation, because when I would have patients come in and say to me, "Oh, like menopause was fine and no problems. I don't get why people have problems." I could tell you, because I look for circadian function in patients, every time their circadian function was fine. It was
Oh,
robust. It was normal. And anytime I had patients that came in and said, I'm especially now, I get 30 somethings who are absolutely
yeah.
in perimenopause. And
Yes.
every time I test it, they have wrecked circadian function. It makes so much sense to me that it's so easy, but it's so hard to deliver this message because everyone in the medical space, whether you're traditional or you're functional, that's still very centralized in the thinking that you're going to fix it with something. You're going to fix it with a pill. You're going to fix it with a hormone. You're going to fix it with a supplement. It's not that needs to be fixed. It's the environment for the person that needs to be fixed so they can reconnect with their normal ability to reload energy and time in their system so that way they can restore the normalcy of their stress responses so that the changes are not stressful. And again, I can tell you from just so many patients because it's what I work with a lot of. It is the answer. It is the answer. And it's almost so easy, it's hard to believe. But this is the moment, like these are one of the health issues I see that if we could get enough, collective wisdom out there and women, with these issues could drive the change and share this with other women, like it could be a powerful moment to say like no, like we're tired of this. Now, obviously if you need a hormone replacement to get by because you are just ready to tear your hair out and like murder your family, all like which I see so much. Like I have patients who be like, I am not myself. Like I cannot even function in my day and I feel insane. So sometimes like in those cases they need a little band-aid until they can heal. But I will always say that very firmly, like it's a band-aid, which sometimes you have to be okay with if you need to function. But then you have a decision. If you want to decentralize your thinking and not be tethered to the band-aid, you have to listen to this story to reconnect with nature, which is the ultimate decentralized network that runs you. If you fix that communication and allow yourself to rebuild you as an energy storing, semi-conductive, like dissipative structure of optical physics, you can become you again. And I am amazed at how many women will be able to, in a relatively short period of time, like be able to find their health back. And I mean, I've had a lot of emotional moments with patients like in the office because they never thought it was possible. No one's giving them that hope. And that's so unfortunate because health is within everyone. And I don't know how that got lost, and doctors are not delivering that message. And the message is like, oh, you need this hormone replacement, which works, but that disconnects you from being in charge of you.
Do you feel like sunscreens play a part in women going through menopause? Because women are told, we're so programmed, slather on sunscreen, don't get any sun on your face
Yes,
whatsoever or
yes.
your arms,
Right. So then like, let's talk about that because like you go back to really the 70s, but really the 1980s is when we were so firmly in medicine kind of with the conversation now around fear of the sun. And it became, more than that. It's sunscreen, but also, just, I hate to say like the word vanity, but then it's makeup and it's makeup with sunscreen. And that's something you apply every day, always. And then you wear sunglasses and even contacts and anything that becomes a filter. But then also, clothing. We used to have natural clothing that let some light through, but then we kind of turned everything over to plastic and polyester, and that does not let light through. So now you have another surface cover. So basically, you're buried from light like 24/7. And now you're kind of left just with what's stored in your system. And unfortunately, we can kind of live for a while with using just our stored energy. But eventually that taps out. And then all of a sudden we have perimenopause when you're 35, and it makes no sense. But it does make sense if you understand thermodynamics. And most people will share that story. They'll say, "Oh gosh, I wear sunglasses even in the winter. I always wear SPF. I never go out of the house without even just my moisturizer being SPF." And then they're covered in clothes. And I mean, these days, I'll tell patients this and they'll come back and say, "Gosh, I looked in my closet and like 95% of my clothes have polyester or polyamide or whatever." It's like just normal now. They realize, like, "Oh my gosh, I've been buried from the sun for years." Right?
Oh my God. It's like
Yeah.
there's so I could talk to you all day, but I want to say that, my mom has joined your group. I wonder if you could talk about your group because my mom is getting so much out of your group. She's like a new person.
I
She's like loves all this information and you know what's amazing about it is it resonates so deeply with everyone on this healing journey on learning about themselves because it brings them back to what's real. It's nature and
right.
anything in alignment with that. But your group is fantastic. So everyone that wants to join, they're going to wonder about it. So
Yeah, no, gosh, I love your mom, and I don't know how much your group knows about your mom, but it was so fabulous to have you and your mom there. There was another like mom and daughter group that came too, and everyone just had such a special place in my heart. But your mom and the other mom, oh my gosh, I just fell in love with both of them. But the interesting thing with your mom is she took pages and pages and pages of notes over those few days at the retreat. And she came and asked me the most amazing questions between sessions that I think I said to her, I'm like, "Phoebe, you are asking like the best questions." I think I told her, like, "You should share your notes with the group," because her brain was thinking. But this is the story of her generation, to be honest, loaded more energy into their structure to survive living than younger people are doing now. And when I can connect to someone of her age, I can tell like they've got this capacity that some of my younger patients have to really work to like kind of load into their system, where hers was already there, so she was just
yeah, she told me about that 'cause she was really proud.
I am proud for her too, because then, after the retreat, it was so many moments at the retreat actually that drove me to then relaunch Field Lab. So Field Lab was my initial invention around how to make learning fun and experiential, with the mindset of, nature is our lab, it is our ultimate lab, but you have to sometimes be retaught that. And I always loved all of my lab courses. Like when I took science classes, like I didn't really love chemistry, but I loved chemistry lab, like I loved labs because you learned through experience. So Field Lab is an online space for that. I relaunched it under a private community though, so that way it wouldn't be attached to social media or anything that could, I don't say be distracting.
Censorship. No
Yeah, like yeah,
censorship
I just
there.
yes, for so many reasons, like doing the retreat in person was such a freeing moment to be able to tell people the truth without worrying about being censored. And that space is ultimately where I love sharing, like, real one-on-one. The in between is then connecting through my Field Lab community, which I have under, it's, technically it's a Mighty Network community, but it's my private community. So once I got back from the retreat, I quickly, with my health coach, like, we had so much that had already been there ready to go that I was able to fully, launch that in a real space. And now, that design there is to help people learn in between. So there's always going to be a free option where there's a forum to be able to ask questions in the group. And a lot of times it's questions that you have that someone else has too. Like that's why your mom, I'm like, every
Yeah,
question,
she loves it
yeah,
because she
every
learns from the other people, and
yes, like
the stuff that she's doing, like even the red light that you told her about, it's working. She's
yes,
noticing help. I mean, it's amazing. And I know
it's
people are gonna ask about the blue light glasses and all that stuff you can share there,
yeah, so then it's an easier space to then share, because my regular week is so consumed with one-on-one, and so I can only do so much. I can't see any more patients. There's not one more spot in my schedule. So this was really the opportunity to speak to more people and then be able to have a space where, like, for example, people from the retreat were able to then reconnect there, and it keeps you connected, but then everyone there is a real person. There's no bots. Everyone's in the similar journey of interest in reconnecting, or maybe for the first time connecting to this information that I wish we all could learn as a kid. If we learned this as a child, and this was what health class was, or what you learned when you went to school, it would change the entire game for the health of the world, right? So that was what I was trying to do, is like to relaunch that space so it could be fun. The learning could be fun. It's with people that you don't feel like you're being judged, or like everyone's got the same questions, and there's no bad question, and then everyone can learn from each other, because then I'm able to just, it's quicker, right? So it's quicker for me to answer questions there, and I can impact more people. And then I am also doing like a small paid membership space that is just a monthly, and then we've already done our first like Q&A, and then I'm offering like learning courses. So like the topic this month is redox potential. So I'm building out kind of like it was a lab course that anyone could plug into at any time. It's sort of self-paced, but then you can listen to the Q&As because they're recorded. So then it could be on your own time, or you can join in live time and ask questions for me and my health coach, and really, building value for people that then is much less expensive for them. And then if they need to have a one-on-one visit because things are more complicated for them, then they can. But my hope is that they can learn a lot, and maybe then can actually restore their health without even needing a visit. It's like it's just a whole different way of thinking. And then I'm able to sort of drive that community toward experiences. So, like, I'm going to be doing a field trip, a health field trip in El Salvador in March. It's going to be my first kind of led group, and that's going to be in a place I kind of call my second home in El Zante, El Salvador. Kind of teaching these things in a more like real life experience, sort of like the Canyon Ranch retreat.
oh my gosh. And you'll send me a link and I'll put
Yeah.
all the links in the description
Thank you.
below.
Yes.
Oh,
So it's fun, but like I just, I will say, like, having people join like your mom is exactly what I hoped for. Like this is like no age doesn't make sense. Like I'm hopeful that, the like a young person, older person, a someone who thinks, they know, they might be a doctor and think they know everything about health. Like it's for everyone. And I think you hit the nail on the head at the retreat when you had shared this with the group, that like kind of, I think almost like the last full day. And I think you said to everyone, like, I have this whole amazing like career and access to people with this deep knowledge from higher self. And I think you said, like, I didn't expect, like, not in a bad way, but I didn't expect to learn anything new at this
I
retreat.
know
Like,
this.
like, yeah, you were like, how
I'm
could I
very
learn any?
honest.
Yeah, like, how could I learn anything new? Like you have the amazing access to true information. And that was so powerful to me that you shared that, because I was like, wow, this was like that moment I spent with the Native American healer, like telling me something that, wow, like this is so powerful, you know? So,
Is. I mean,
yeah.
and it's funny because I would have never woken up for the sunrise at 5:30 a.m., you know? But yet so many of my clients under hypnosis are telling them, and it started triggering things with me in me. And I realized that you are connecting really deeply to this ancient wisdom, and they are sharing it too, and you're making it practical for people. And then
Yeah,
now
yeah,
seeing my mom transform, I'm like, oh my gosh, more people need to do this and sign up for
yeah.
your
So
group.
hopefully, maybe this is bringing some of that knowledge into reality. Like I feel really like I'm able to, thankfully, like I'm doing maybe what others are doing under hypnosis, but in like
Yeah,
real time.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
It's so exciting.
Right, which then maybe that's the possibility though. Like and then I truly feel that once there's enough of this like resonating, that we then overpower. Like we're able to truly connect the world with this
Yeah,
level of knowledge that's always been there, but
yeah.
we just, for so many reasons, whether it's wearing, makeup or plastic clothes or sunglasses, like we purposefully are with a filter, a shield over that information. And once you just start with waking up for sunrise and getting out there and get that light into your brain and start the timing of your day, and then darkness at night to allow the sleep mode to do some amazing things to, regenerate, restore, bring you back to hopefully the state of the next day, which is even more powerful than the one before. And start there. Everyone can make a difference in their health from just those two simple tools that
And blue
are,
light classes, right? Because I
yeah,
see you wearing yours,
yes,
and I know at the retreat
yes.
you gave us blue light glasses, which I don't know where they went. But
That's
what brand do you think is really good?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm very much a firm believer in using blue blockers for helping to adjust to when you do have to be indoors. So, like for example, like right now, I'm wearing these that are for daytime. So I'm inside, I have a little unique situation because I'm next to a big sliding door, but I purposely have glass that does not have filter on it. You can buy that specially. It costs more money, but that allows me to be indoors to do things like this, but it still actually lets a significant amount of full spectrum light in, which is very cool because most glass filters all the good stuff. And so when you're inside, you become in this blue light toxic environment. So for daytime, what I'm trying to achieve and what I tell patients to think about is that the hope is that you're creating a proper rainbow that looks similar to the spectrum that you would be seeing outside. So during the day is not about 100% blue blocking. That wouldn't make sense. Like we're not meant to have nothing. And in fact, I've had a few patients who have used like more darkening blue blockers during the day, and if they can't get outside, it kind of wrecks their circadian function in a not helpful way. So that's important to know kind of how to use them. These are by Viva Rays. I really do, it's what I wear because I've tested them, and my spectrometer kind of really gives me an output that looks so similar to sunlight without then blocking all of the blue, but turning it down and then properly shifting to enough red that it mimics that. So that's kind of the daytime approach. For nighttime, what you're looking for is 100% blue blocking that has to look like orange. But not all 100% blue blockers are actually legitimate. Some of them don't block all the blue light, unfortunately. So you kind of have to like test it. I've tested my Viva Rays, so I have these actually have like clip-ons so they can turn them into orange. And then there's also red that I use right before bedtime that also blocks green light. So for nighttime, after the sun sets, your brain is supposed to be getting no blue light. And there are specific photoreceptors that are looking for that blue light called melanopsin. You need to protect them from getting that blue light signal. So if you're using the 100% blue blockers, then your brain is able to get as close as an interpretation to nighttime as if you were outside, right? Like, unfortunately, life is happening and there's kind of no way around if you don't live at the equator where it's like 12 hours of light, 12 hours of dark. If you live like where we live, pretty soon the time is changing. So, this is where blue blockers at night can be so helpful that then you can wear those that allows you to properly activate melatonin and kind of drive some of the circadian sleep mode. So that way, then when you go to bed, your body can do the cleanup crew it was designed to do. It cannot do that if you are experiencing blue light at night. It cannot. In fact, like it's so proven that you could get 99% melatonin in activation if you're with blue light going into your eyes. And I mean that's wild because most people are doing something with artificial light. If you're staying up after sunset in the middle of winter, it's lights on, it's technology, whatever it is ruining our timekeeping abilities. And that is such at the core of without activating those processes at night, your body can't delete cells that look bad, whatever that might be. Maybe it's cancer cells, and maybe it's just cells going in that direction. Maybe it's cells that just have really trashed metabolism. They need to get deleted, and they cannot do that. So now you every night while you're sleeping just keep loading up all of these junk cells. Eventually, again, your health will turn on you because it cannot function. So the blue blockers, it's a one-time spend, but if you can understand how to use them and apply it to your life, you never wear them outside. You always want light into your eyes when you're outside, but when you're inside, you really want to think about what is happening. Do I have a light environment that's now altered, and can I shift that? So the Viva Rays I wear like when I'm working because I'm working in a computer, like that's why I'm wearing them right now because I wanted to see you. Like I'm looking at a computer, so I'm wearing my daytime blue blockers so that way I can do that. If I'm not doing anything on technology and I'm just reading, writing or whatever, like and I'm in a room like this, which I have all built in my office, I won't wear my blue blockers then. And then at nighttime, I will always wear the 100% blue blockers no matter what. And sometimes I'll even use them like right now, like we'll go for walks sometimes at night. And now that the time is going to change, if we're walking at night, I'll wear them even because lights are on like outside. It's such a problem because most of our lighting is LED. So we've just kind of created this blue night light nightmare for our health.
It would be amazing if a whole bunch of us decides to like switch back to like go back to nature. Candles. We'll do candles like
I actually
fires.
have, I don't know if you have them, like growing up, we always had like those, like the camp lights that you would, if you lost electricity, you could like, they had like the oil in them and then you could
Uh-huh.
light them. And I have a couple of those. There was a while that we exclusively used those at night. And then my daughter was young then, and I don't, maybe it created it. Like she's so afraid of the dark that
Oh,
we at the time lived in a much larger house. And so where her bedroom was, like she was so afraid of the dark that we started to have to use like red lights, and like we had to introduce a little bit more lighting because she would be afraid to like walk down the hallway to her bedroom. And so I think there's a lot of different ways to do it, but I think why not? Like especially in the winter, it's so much more calming for your brain before bedtime to not have that overactivation.
Right. Yeah. Oh my gosh. There's just so much. Like, it's incredible. Like, thank you so much for sharing this very important knowledge
Yes.
with
Thank you for having me,
us.
Sarah. I really, I'm so glad that we connected on this because it feels like we're tying up some stuff from the retreat too.
100%. And it just coincides so amazingly with information coming through my sessions. Do you have any final messages you want to share with people?
No, I mean, you asked such great questions, Sarah. Hopefully, if it ever makes sense to reconnect in the future, I'm always here for a conversation. Who knows? I feel very much our paths will align somewhere in the future, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure. Oh, I'm sure. I have like 1,000 more questions, but
Yeah, no,
how
thank
can
you
I go?
so much for having me. And I really appreciate you actually, sharing this with your whole group of listeners and community. It's how it's going to change that,
Yeah.
I taught you, you're teaching them, like they're teaching their world. It's going to happen. I really feel strongly that this message is going to get out there.
So exciting. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And if you want to sign up for Dr. Allison's group, the link will be in the description. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah.